Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And in today's video we're going to be shooting, reviewing, and talking about this Noveske. And this one is from a limited production run and made in collaboration with a company called Superior Defense, or SupDef for short. And that's why I think Noveske calls this the NODEF. It's based off of their Leonidas, which uses their N6 lower receiver. And essentially this is an AR-10 type of firearm. So we use a full-powered rifle cartridge. Now, that cartridge is 6.5 Creedmoor. And this is going to be the very first time I have ever reviewed a short-barreled rifled AR-10 in 6.5. So this is going to be a different experience for me. Now, speaking of this gun being a rifle, you will notice it does have a stock and a vertical foregrip. And that is because this gun has been SBR'd. But this firearm typically comes only as an unbraced pistol. But I think most end users are going to fill out the paperwork to add the stock. So I'm really glad I'm going to get this experience to shoot it as a rifle instead of a pistol. Now, typically I am not a big fan of shooting AR-10s with short barrels. They're loud, they're obnoxious. I really think they shine with longer barrels for longer distance shooting. But in this configuration, I believe it's designed more as a defensive carbine. Now, yes, 6.5 Creedmoor is a caliber that is designed for longer distance shooting. So this might be an all-around gun that you can do a lot of different things with. But for this review, because it's so short, I'm only going to review it as a defensive carbine. So that might upset some people, but that's the way it's kind of set up. But before I adjust the camera and give you some close-ups of this gun and go over all of its specs, there's a few people I have to give a huge shout out to. First and foremost is the owner of this amazing firearm who lent it to the channel and also filled out the paperwork allowing me to borrow it to create this content. He's a local fan and subscriber named D, and he has an amazing collection. So thank you again, D, for all you do for the Texas Gun Vault community. As always, I have to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not create this content without them. And if you want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there's a link in the description below, and you'll get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I have to give a huge shout out to my channel sponsor because he makes some of the best grips in the world, and he provides so much support to this channel. His name is Mark, and he is the owner of Brownworks. And I know if you love high-end fine firearms and collectible firearms, you own guns like 1911s, Browning High Power, CZ75s, and Beretta 92s, just to name a few. And all of these pistols take wood panel grips, and you might be looking to upgrade these pistols in your collection. Well, the grip company you have to check out is Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish the grips in a wide variety of colors, create his own laminate woods, apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to make the grips unique and one of a kind, and he even offers other products like pistol stands. Pretty much anything you can imagine he can create. Every set of grips he makes is made to order and in consultation with you. So I'm going to ask you to go over and check out his website. I'm going to put a link in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. And when you go over there and order your first set of custom Brownworks grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so we have a lot to talk about when it comes to this really cool firearm. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera, give you some close-ups, and let's go over all of the specs of the Noveske NODEF. So let's take a closer look at this Noveske 12.5-inch NODEF chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. Isn't that just a great looking rifle? And as mentioned before, this gun normally comes as a pistol, and it is a limited production run of the Leonidas, and it uses the N6 lower receiver. Now, the owner of this SBR has, of course, added a few things since getting the approval on the Form 1. He has added a B5 industry stock pistol grip and vertical foregrip, and I really like that camo pattern that is on it. So let's go over the specs of this gun. We'll start with the barrel. It is 12.5 inches long. It is made of 416R stainless steel. It has a 1-8 twist with semi-polygonal rifling. It has a Noveske micro switch block on it, so you can go between unsuppressed and suppressed really easy with it, and it is bead blast finished. The upper receiver is a Noveske 4th generation billet receiver made of 7075 T6 aluminum. It has a nitride coated bolt carrier group with dual ejectors, and it is green hard coat anodized. The handguard is a 4th generation NSR. It is 11.5 inches long. It is made of 6005 T5 aluminum. The lower receiver is a SupDef Noveske 4th generation N6 lower, and it does have the collaboration logo between Noveske and SupDef on it. It is made of 7075 T6 aluminum. It has an oversized mag well and an integrated trigger. All of the controls are ambidextrous. It has a 7-position buffer tube, an H3 buffer. Overall, this gun weighs 7.45 pounds and has an overall length of 31 inches. Inside the lower receiver, we have a Geissele SDE 2-stage trigger. So that's the next thing I want to test out. And these Geissele triggers are often really nice and pretty much every modern sporting rifle. So let me go ahead and get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge, and we're going to test it out and see what the pull weight is. And so before showing you anything about this trigger, I do want to safety check the firearm. We're going to go ahead and drop the magazine, ensure there is no ammunition in it. Then we will turn the gun over and visually inspect the chamber, and it looks like we are clear. Let me go ahead and show you the take-up first. It is a 2-stage trigger, and that take-up is a little bit longer and a little bit grittier than I was expecting it would be. But we come back to a definitive wall, and it breaks very crisp and very light. Then when it comes to the reset, that is really nice, and we have that gritty take-up again. That's the only thing about it that I don't like, and I guess I'm not really a big fan of the flat face as well, but I know many of you will be. So now let's get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge, clear any averages out, and now it's time to test the trigger. So for our first pull, we have 3 pounds, 5.2 ounces. Three pounds, 9.2 ounces. Three pounds, 4.2 ounces. Three pounds, 2.1 ounces. And finally, we have 3 pounds, 5.0 ounces, which gives us an average of 3 pounds, 5.1 ounces. That is a really nice trigger. I'm kind of curious if that's going to be a little bit too light for a gun like this, an AR-10 SBR. I think a gun like this might want a trigger that's going to be in the 4.5 pound range, especially if it's set up for CQB or home defense. But once again, this is kind of a do-all gun. Chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, this might be a great long-distance firearm as well as a defensive carbine. So speaking of 6.5 Creedmoor, if you're unfamiliar with it, I now want to tell you what I know about it and compare it to a 308. And so if you're unfamiliar with 6.5 Creedmoor, this is a cartridge that was introduced in 2007 by Hornady. It is designed for long-range shooting and to be put into rifles with short action. So if you have a bolt action gun, it will fit comfortably in a receiver that is designed for a cartridge length of 308. And speaking of having the same length as 308, here is a 308 right next to 6.5 Creedmoor, and because it has the same length and the same diameter, it will fit into 308 magazines. So you don't have to have specialized magazines or one specifically designed for this caliber. If you have a bunch of 7.62 by 51 mags, it's going to work just fine in them, and that is a huge advantage to it. One of the performance advantages to this cartridge is that it will stay supersonic beyond 1,200 yards, and that outperforms 308. So once again, 308 here and 6.5 Creedmoor right there. So that's what 6.5 Creedmoor is all about. So now let me readjust the camera and let's talk about all the things I like and don't like about this SBR before taking it to the range. And as always, before taking any firearm that I have here at the channel to the range, I always like to share with you my thoughts on the things that I like and don't like about it, and I always want to start with the positive first. The first thing I love about this gun is that it's a Noveske. I love their company philosophy. They don't seem to care what anyone thinks. They're not looking to be politically correct. They're going to make the guns they want to make, and they're going to name them the things they want to name them. They don't care about other people's sensitive feelings. And I do appreciate that. And they have some pretty innovative and funny names for their guns, like the Ghetto Blaster. I'm also a big fan of the build of this gun. Noveske makes some of the best rifles out there. I am always impressed with the build quality. I never see a machine mark on these. They're finished perfectly, and they're put together with exceptionally tight tolerances. I also like the fact that the gas block is adjustable and very easy to get to. Many high-end AR manufacturers today do offer adjustable gas blocks, but often they're a little bit difficult to get to. And I like to run my guns both suppressed and unsuppressed, so I appreciate how easy this gas block is to adjust. And I'm also a big fan of the color. You know I love earth tones, things like flat dark earth, and this is in OD green. It's something different than black. I just like the variety. And so now there is a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And the first thing I noticed while handling it here on the workbench is even though we have some really nice ambidextrous controls, the paddle for the bolt release is so close to the left side magazine release, I have noticed that sometimes when I'm going for one or the other, I will push the wrong thing down. Those controls are simply too close together. And I know this is going to be a very small gripe, but I've already talked about it. I'm not a big fan of the flat face on the trigger. Many of you guys are, but typically I like my triggers to be just a little bit curved. And then finally, there's the elephant in the room. This is an AR-10 SBR. I am not a fan of putting full-powered rifle cartridges in guns with such short barrels. Many times these things are obnoxious. They're too loud. And I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like shooting guns like this, but this is in 6.5 Creedmoor, so this might shoot a little bit different than the ones I have reviewed in the past in 308. So that's the things that I like and don't like about it, so now it's time to take it to the range. And here's the caveat to this review, because it's an SBR and kind of set up in a tactical way, I'm going to review this as a defensive carbine. I know that this gun is probably capable of being very accurate to out to 800 or 900 yards, but I'm only going to review this as a home defense carbine at a 25-yard range. If you don't like that, you can click away from this video. But I am going to shoot this gun unsuppressed and suppressed. And the suppressor we're going to use for this review is the Dead Air Sandman S 7.62. So this is probably going to be a great suppressor for this gun. So the first test I'm going to do is just set out the target at 10 yards. I'm going to put one magazine through this unsuppressed and then suppressed, and I'll come back here and give you my initial thoughts and opinions. And I have to admit, I am quite impressed by the way this gun shot. When I was shooting it unsuppressed, it seems to have less report and less recoil than comparable firearms chambered in .308. I still think 6.5 Creedmoor is overkill for an SBR, but I definitely like it more. Shooting this gun suppressed was also very pleasant. This Sandman S has a great tone to it, and the gun grouped better. Now, this is a very heavy firearm, and if you're going to use it for home defense, you have to prepare for that. But I actually think that is a good thing because that's going to mitigate the recoil even more. So far, I am very impressed with how this gun is performing. It feels great in the shoulder and not hitting as hard as I was expecting it to. So now it's time to double the distance of this target. I want to put another magazine through it, and all of the tests from now on will be suppressed because it just shoots and sounds so much better. So once again, let's go back to the range, put some more rounds through this gun, and see if there's anything else I discover about it that I like and don't like, and I'll come back here and report to you on it. And pretty much my thoughts with this test mirror my experiences with the previous test. The gun just shoots great. It feels great in my shoulder. It's just a little bit unbalanced and a little bit heavy, but that's to be expected from an AR-10 SBR. The only thing that I think would make it a little bit more comfortable to shoot is to move the vertical foregrip back a little bit. I personally love to run vertical foregrips, but I like them back towards the center of gravity, not out towards the front. But that's just how I set up the guns that I personally own and shoot a lot. For me, it just makes it a little bit more comfortable, and I feel like I can control it a little bit better. But your thoughts and experiences with a vertical foregrip may vary. Now, I want to set the target at 25 yards and shoot this gun from the bench. And yes, I already know 6.5 Creedmoor can be exceptionally accurate out to 1,200 yards and beyond. But I am reviewing this once again as a defensive carbine. I just kind of feel like the owner has set it up for that situation. Now, If I have any issues with the accuracy of this gun, you can extrapolate any variances out to further distances. But I'm expecting to get an amazingly tight group. So let's go back to the range. I'm just going to shoot this from the bench. I'm going to try to use the nicest ammo I have for it, which, by the way, is the Hornady V-Match 100 grain. And we're going to see what the best group I can get with it is. So let's go back to the range and see if I can put a bunch of rounds through the same hole. And that was exactly the result I was hoping and expecting to get. The only flyer you saw on that target was me, and it was the last round in that group, and I knew when I pulled the trigger it was going to be off. So that was not the gun or the ammo's fault, it was totally the shooter's fault. And as you saw, all of the other rounds essentially went through the same hole. So I know this gun is going to be accurate out to 400, 500, 600 yards, as everyone says it is. I have no questions about its accuracy. But as I mentioned, I am reviewing this as a defensive carbine. So the next test I want to do is kind of imagine myself having to clear a building or clear my home, and I need to do a quick magazine change with this gun. I want to find out, can I keep this gun on target? 6.5 Creedmoor does hit a lot more than 5.56. I'm also curious how fast I can pull this trigger and, of course, drop the magazine and get a fresh one in there and get the gun back in action. I have discovered that sometimes with these billet lower receivers, they can be a little bit tight when it comes to the magazine, therefore slowing you down. But that doesn't seem to be the case with this one. So let's go back to the range and let's see how fast I can change this magazine out and if I can keep the gun on target while doing it. And like all Geissele triggers, I can pull this thing really fast. The magazine change was also really quick. These mags fly right out of there, and this really big mag well that's built into the lower is absolutely awesome. Now, getting the best group on target was a little bit more difficult than, let's say, if I was shooting a standard AR-15, but that's to be expected with a much more powerful caliber. But as compared to 308, I think this is a much better option if you want a gun like this. I am really enjoying this firearm. It's way better than one chambered in 308, in my personal opinion. And so now the last test I want to do is the Magnum test. It's not really a test, it's just me wanting to go to the range and have some fun with what little ammo I have left. I already know I can pull this trigger fast, so now let me load up a complete magazine and see how fast I can dump it. And like I said before, having a gun chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor is much more controllable than one in 308. Now, one thing to note about all of the tests, especially the ones where I was shooting faster, is I was using basic pistol targets. Normally when I conduct these tests, I like to have silhouettes. However, when I was at the range, it was after hours, and they seemed to be out of most of the targets except for those. So I don't think those groups best represented them in a realistic way. I like to use those silhouettes because you can see generally the size of a human being on them, and I think it makes those groups look a little bit more impressive. But I had to work with what I had in the moment. So what are my final thoughts on the Noveske NODEF 12.5 inch barreled 6.5 Creedmoor SBR? Well, this is definitely a very interesting gun, and I believe this might be the nicest AR-10 SBR I have ever shot. 6.5 Creedmoor is definitely better than 308 in a gun like this. It has less recoil and it seems to be more accurate for me. The only downsides that I have discovered with this gun, once again, are the controls being a little bit too close together on the left-hand side of the gun, and overall, it is a little bit too gassy. Even if I have the gas block set to suppressed, with the suppressor on, I'm getting a lot of gas back in my face. But I'm going to talk more about that when I review this suppressor in an upcoming video. But both of those gripes, once again, are very, very small. So, on my star system, how would I rate the Noveske NODEF? Well, I'm going to give this 4.5 stars out of 5, even though an SBR AR-10 is nowhere near my favorite type of gun. This one really impressed me. It's a very nice shooting gun, and I can tell you that if I had the opportunity to shoot this out to further distances, I have no doubt it would be very accurate. This kind of is a do-all, all-around SBR. I think you could fill so many different roles with this gun. But if you are going to use it for home defense, it might be just a little bit overkill. But some people may love that aspect about the chambering of this firearm. So tell me in the comments section below, what do you think of AR-10 SBRs? And what do you think about Noveske and their collaboration with Superior Defense with the NODEF? I would love to know your thoughts. So, as always, thanks for watching.